Hey sweeties, how are you doing? Welcome to Nanyacim. If this is your first time of coming across this channel, sweetheart, kindly smash the subscribe button, turn on the notification so you get notified each time I upload, and please give this video a thumb up. I appreciate you all, and I want to say a very big thank you to every one of you for always coming back to watch my videos and subscribing. Yeah, you all are the real MVP. So today we'll be talking about the most uncomfortable historical facts, right? You actually heard me right. And I really cannot wait to roll this video so we can get into it and then come back to talk about it. And also, if there are some uncomfortable historical facts you know and you want to share with us, why not? Say that in the comment section. I will be reading your comments, and also other people will also learn from what you got to say, of course. So you know what? Let me roll the clip.
Hey, good morning. Several of you have been tagging me in videos of people doing their best bassman impersonation, and I gotta be honest with you, I love it. I love it so much. And I've learned a few things from some of the videos you've tagged me in, because, you know, those are things I didn't know. So do me a favor. Stitch this with your best hey, good morning, followed by your most uncomfortable historical fact. Can't wait to hear what you've got to say. Stitch this with your best hey, good morning, followed by your most uncomfortable historical fact.
Hey, good morning. In the 18th century, prior to the procedure we now know as the cesarean section, if a baby was stuck in the breech position or couldn't make it through the birth canal, doctors would take a sharp knife and without anesthesia cut right through the cartilage and bone to separate the pelvis to get the baby out. Now, it's a very difficult procedure and hard on the doctors, so two Scottish doctors in 1780 designed a device to make it much easier for them. We now call it a chainsaw. Have a great day.
Stitch this with your best hey, good morning, followed by your most uncomfortable historical fact.
Hey, good morning. Actually, hey, good afternoon. Here is a sad, funny, and, very uncomfortable for me historical fact. Mavis Staples turned down Bob Dylan's wedding proposal. I'm not making this shit up. So when Bob Dylan and the Staples Singers were on tour in the early 60s, Bob actually asked Pop Staples for Mavis's hand in marriage. And Pops told him, don't ask me, go ask Mavis. And so Bob did ask Mavis, but Mavis turned him down. Now, to this day, Mavis expresses regret that she did not say yes to Bob. And when they went on tour together in 2016, Bob actually told her, "You should have married me. You would have seen me every day." So yeah, we all missed out on that. So yeah.
Stitch this with your best hey, good morning, followed by your most uncomfortable historical fact.
Hey, good morning. Did you know that when the Civil War broke out, almost half of Alabama's population consisted of enslaved people of color? And it wasn't plantation owners who went and fought for their right to continue to enslave those people. No, they had to stay home with the help. Instead, it was poor white people, some drafted, but mostly indoctrinated by preachers and politicians who used prejudice, fear, and propaganda to convince them that once free, these black people would revolt and kill their white families. And that's how it came to be that poor white people in Alabama fought and died so that rich white people in Alabama could continue to persecute black Americans for the sake of free labor, even if it meant over 400,000 potential jobs wouldn't come available that those white families could compete for. And if you look at what's going on with the GOP and its followers today, it's the same shit.
Good morning. Did you know that every building block in what eventually became the field of U.S. American gynecology is made up of racism, specifically medical racism? When U.S. Congress banned the importation of African slaves in 1808, suddenly the reproductive health of black women became very, very important. Important and life-saving procedures such as obstetrical fistula repair, C-sections, and removal of diseased ovaries became priorities to slave owners who wanted more slaves. The white men who stood to profit off of this field started using enslaved and poor women to advance their medical research, to create surgical procedures to cure people of formerly incurable diseases, and, while they were at it, to give a scientific model for physicians who were interested in understanding what they thought were the biological differences between black and white people. In their experiments and bids to legitimize their ideas of biological racial differences, white doctors would use the same terminology that the new field of natural science was using to describe plants and animals in nature. This careful, analytical, impersonal, and dehumanizing language gave legitimacy to the studies being completed by means of making them scientific. The white men submitted their various findings to medical journals, which became popular at the same time due to the articles in them about how to keep enslaved women alive through childbirth. The medical journals got into the hands of common slave owners who suddenly found plenty of medical and scientific backing for their racism. With the success of gynecology as a field, the legitimacy of these medical journals was so unquestioned that even white abolitionists at the time believed the myths about black women in them. Considering how many black women come forward every day about the gaslighting they receive when seeking medical care, and how easily those women are dismissed by white people who refuse to question medical authority today, we can see that this trend never stops with white allies. As these medical journals became more popular over the course of the next 20 years, the previous belief that race was determined by one's country of origin was replaced with the idea that race is biologically grounded. Now, the fact that there is no difference of any kind between the reproductive systems of white and black people was something that white doctors knew very, very well at the time. After all, after perfecting medical procedures on enslaved women, the doctors would make a good deal of money curing the reproductive ailments of white women. In the exact same way, they would cure enslaved women. Somehow, that never seemed to come up in those medical journals.
Stitch this with your best "Hey, good morning," followed by your most uncomfortable historical fact.
Hey, good morning. Did you know that birth control has its roots in eugenics? It's true. Margaret Sanger, one of the founders of Planned Parenthood and a eugenicist, wanted to see if a cheap method of birth control could be created, so she contacted Dr. Gregory Pincus, who specialized in mammal reproduction. He got together with John Rock, who was an obstetrician, and they ran the very first trial on a small number of women in Massachusetts, but when they needed a larger clinical trial, they turned to Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico was viewed as the perfect place to run the trial because it had two things that they were looking for: poor people and a booming population. So they got together with one of the Procter & Gamble heirs, Clarence Gamble, who ran a bunch of birth control clinics on the island of Puerto Rico. He was another eugenicist, by the way. The women that participated in the clinical trial were only told that the drug prevented pregnancy, not that it was experimental, not that they were a part of a clinical trial, and they weren't given safety information. When they brought up side effects and symptoms that they were experiencing, they were ignored. In the end, 1/3 of the women on the island of Puerto Rico were sterilized.
Stitch this with your best "Hey, good morning," followed by your most uncomfortable historical fact.
Hey, good morning. From 1884 to 1908, there was a prolific female serial killer in America by the name of Belle Gunness, nicknamed Hell's Belle, who it is reported to have murdered around 40 people, who consisted of multiple husbands she acquired and her own children so that she could acquire their life insurance policy. She then advertised herself in newspapers saying that she was a young rich woman looking to be married, and the young suitors that would come to her house, she demanded they bring money with them as a down payment for the wedding. After that, she would promptly kill them and bury them on her land. It is reported that she died in a house fire. However, the body that was found and identified as her was beheaded and shorter than her. And a farmhand that later confessed to assisting her in most of these murders said that Belle requested that he kill a local woman, put her in the house, and then set the house on fire after she was being found out for the murders. So it most definitely was not Belle. The police station identified the body as Belle anyway, and we actually have no idea what really happened to her in the end.
Stitch this with your best "Hey, good morning," followed by your most uncomfortable historical fact.
Hey, good morning. Did you know that birth control has its roots in eugenics? It's true. Margaret Sanger, one of the founders of Planned Parenthood and a eugenicist, wanted to see if a cheap method of birth control could be created, so she contacted Dr. Gregory Pincus, who specialized in mammal reproduction. He got together with John Rock, who was an obstetrician, and they ran the very first trial on a small number of women in Massachusetts. But when they needed a larger clinical trial, they turned to Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico was viewed as the perfect place to run the trial because it had two things that they were looking for: poor people and a booming population. So they got together with one of the Procter & Gamble heirs, Clarence Gamble, who ran a bunch of birth control clinics on the island of Puerto Rico. He was another eugenicist, by the way. The women that participated in the clinical trial were only told that the drug prevented pregnancy, not that it was experimental, not that they were a part of a clinical trial, and they weren't given safety information. When they brought up side effects and symptoms that they were experiencing, they were ignored. In the end, 1/3 of the women on the island of Puerto Rico were sterilized.
Stitch this with your best "Hey, good morning," followed by your most uncomfortable historical fact.
Hey, good morning. The term blue blood comes from the Spanish phrase sangre azul, which the Castilian aristocracy began using in the early 1830s to refer to themselves. They used that phrase to express that they had been uncorrupted by Moorish blood or Jewish blood because their skin was so white that you could see their veins through it.
All right, this is all we have for the most uncomfortable historical fact. If you have anyone you want to share, absolutely feel free to share with us. And actually, I learned a lot from this, and this is where I'm gonna call it a day. Let me know what you all think in the comment section. I'll see you all in my next video. Bye for now.